When I think of Leo, memories from my childhood rush back like a river that never stops flowing. We first met when we were 6, in a little playground in our neighborhood that both of our families knew well. I still remember that brown-haired boy with bright, sparkling eyes, a smile that never seemed to tire, running around the grass as if the world existed only for his joy. Back then, I was a shy little girl clinging to my mum, while Leo had no hesitation in running over and introducing himself, holding out his hand and saying, "Wanna play together?" From that day on, we became inseparable. Not just ordinary friends, but people who understood each other without needing many words. We shared games, birthday parties, dance classes, painting lessons, and even hot summer days spent hiding under the shade of an old tree to escape the sun. My family always treated Leo as a natural part of life, a familiar, kind-hearted child who seemed to belong. The memory I cherish most is from when my mum was still alive. She loved Leo almost like he was her own grandchild. When my mum passed away, Leo was the first person to hold my hand, silent but steadfast. I remember feeling a mix of shock and deep gratitude. My dad even commented in his calm, deep voice, "He's a good kid, always knows how to be there when you need him." Looking into my dad's eyes, I felt a trust that was absolute. Even in the hardest moments, Leo was a quiet anchor, and my dad, naturally, considered him an important part of our family. As time passed, we grew up together. Our friend group became almost inseparable, and Leo was always the person I wanted to share everything with, from trivial school stories to distant dreams about the future. Sometimes, just one glance from him made me feel safe. I used to think, if things stayed this way, Leo would always be part of my life, like that old tree in the yard, never leaving. By the time we turned 18, at the end of high school, everything started to shift. Our friendship naturally deepened into something more serious. There was no grand declaration, just one day. We realized we couldn't imagine life without each other. I remember the first time he held my hand, the warm afternoon sun shining on his brown hair, and my heart skipping a beat in a way I knew would follow me forever. My family accepted our relationship without hesitation. My dad, who had always been strict about relationships, showed nothing but respect toward Leo. He never put up rules, compared, or tried to control us. Everything was normal, calm, and easy. But I realized something. Even the most beautiful relationships can be tested, not by major events, but by small, unexpected changes. And that test came sooner than I expected. My dad got married again, to a woman I hadn't interacted with much before. At first, I thought, it'll be fine. This is a new family, but Leo is still me, still the person I trust and care about. I didn't anticipate that her arrival would change everything. The first signs were subtler, slight uncomfortable glance, vague comments about who belongs to the family, but I brushed them off, thinking I was overreacting. Soon, I started feeling an invisible distance growing. The times I wanted to bring Leo to family gatherings, my dad started hesitating, even stopping me. "You shouldn't bring someone here if they're not family," he said, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. I was confused. He had never said this before. Could it be her? My dad's new wife was quietly creating rules that hadn't existed before. Memories of my childhood suddenly felt unstable in my mind. Leo, who had once been a natural part of the family, now seemed like an outsider in my dad's eyes. I looked at him, at his gentle smile, and felt a surge of anger, not at Leo, but at the injustice unfolding, at the things I had believed would never change, suddenly becoming fragile. But it was this mix of emotions that gave me a new kind of strength. I realized that love isn't always recognized, and sometimes, to protect the person you care about and what's right, you have to stand up, even if that means confronting the people you love most. And that was just the beginning of a journey I didn't yet know where it would lead, a journey full of conflict, anger, heartbreak, but also determination and hope. As we stepped into 18 and our relationship became official, everything seemed fine, at least on the surface. But my dad, he started acting differently. At first, I thought, with a friendship tested since childhood, Leo would always be a natural part of my life, like a comfortable habit you don't even notice. But it seemed that as soon as our love became serious, it made my dad and his new wife more uncomfortable than I expected. Leo and I were living with friends for the summer before moving in together for good. Our days were filled with laughter, quick meals, studying together, late-night talks, and little adventures around town. Leo had become an essential part of my life. Yet, I noticed a subtle change in my dad's behavior. He didn't seem as relaxed as before. The first real sign came when I wanted to bring Leo to a family party in June. I asked my dad, "Can I bring Leo with me?" Before, inviting friends to family events was never a problem. But this time, my dad looked at me, his face serious, and said, "You shouldn't bring someone here if they're not family." I was confused. I thought, why only this time? Why not Leo? I even checked with the host. They were totally fine with him coming. But my dad was uneasy. A mix of disappointment and anger welled up inside me. Why is everything suddenly different just because of her? His new wife was quietly changing the rules, and it felt like the world I'd always known was shifting. From then on, every time I wanted to include Leo in a family event, there was an invisible tension. It wasn't always direct refusal, it was looks, subtle comments, vague reminders. Some things are just for family. I could feel the natural balance of my family tilting, and Leo, the person who had once felt like home, suddenly seemed like an outsider in my dad's eyes. The new wife also started showing up unexpectedly when Leo and I were at home. Each time, the tension in the room was palpable. They wanted Leo out of our private moments, saying I should spend time with family without my boyfriend, as if my desire to be with Leo was somehow unnatural. I tried to be patient and understanding, but each instance sparked a surge of frustration and sadness. I kept asking myself, why should they decide who counts as family in my life? Do I have to follow rules that make no sense? Leo watched me, quiet but fully aware, and that made me even more determined. I wasn't going to back down, at least not when it came to the person I love. One afternoon, everything boiled over. My dad and his wife showed up unexpectedly. Leo was getting ready to run an errand, and I was tidying up around the house. The moment they stepped in, the atmosphere grew tense. Greetings were polite but hollow. Leo smiled, trying to ease the tension, but it was clear they had already decided he didn't belong here. Anger surged in me. I squared my shoulders and looked my dad in the eye. Why are you treating Leo like this? Do you really think I'd want to visit if this is how you act? His wife interjected sharply. We don't like seeing you in a serious relationship, and it's strange that you're bringing him here. You should listen to us. I took a deep breath, forcing calm into my voice. Who are you to decide that? You're not my mum. You'll never be my mum, and certainly not the grandmother of my kids someday. If you're going to treat Leo differently, then you can't expect me to treat you as family either." My dad hesitated, trying to find middle ground. "She's my wife, and she is family." I stared at him. "My family is my parents and the people I love. Leo is the one I love, and he's an important part of my life. I will not back down on that." The confrontation reached a breaking point. His wife was furious, using every argument she could to assert her authority. My dad was caught in the middle, trying to stay neutral while still siding with her. Leo stayed silent, but his eyes spoke volumes. He understood me, and that gave me strength I hadn't felt before. Finally, I said firmly, "Enough. I'm done arguing, but I will not back down. If you want peace, please leave." They left, but not Izzy. I heard muttered remarks as they walked out, but I didn't look back, didn't yield after they left. Leo came back, placing a hand gently on my shoulder. "I get it, and I'll always be here for you." I felt a mix of exhaustion and relief. I knew there would be more challenges ahead, but at least I had set clear boundaries. Love and loyalty are not things anyone can judge or take away. That evening, the usually calm atmosphere at home felt heavier than ever. We were preparing for a small family dinner, just a few close relatives. The warm, golden light from the ceiling lamps cast soft glows across the neatly set table. Leo wore the pale blue shirt I loved most, his gentle smile easing my nerves. When I asked, "Ready?" he nodded, and for a moment everything seemed sweet, peaceful like the stillness before a storm. The moment we stepped inside, the calm shattered. My dad stood by the doorway, his expression uncertain, as though he couldn't decide whether to welcome us or not. Beside him was his new wife, her lips curved into a faint smirk. I knew that look too well. It said, "This person doesn't belong here." Leo greeted them softly, his voice polite, steady, but the warmth he usually brought into a room seemed to evaporate under her cold stare. Dad gave us a stiff nod. His wife, however, didn't bother with courtesy. Her tone was sharp, dismissive. "You know the rules. Some things are just for family, not your boyfriend." A surge of heat rose in my chest. I drew in a breath, trying to steady my voice, but what came out was firm and unshakable. "Leo is the person I love. He is part of my life. I will not back down." Her smirk widened, cutting deeper. "And what about my place? One day, I'll be the grandmother of your children. Don't you understand who really counts as family?" Anger flashed in me. My voice sharpened. "You're not my mother. You will never be my mother or my children's grandmother. You don't get to decide who I love or who belongs in my life." Dad's silence stung more than her words. He stood frozen, his eyes flicking between us, but never quite meeting Leo's. His hesitation was louder than any accusation. I turned to him, my voice breaking through the air. "Dad, if you don't stand by me and Leo, if you let this continue, how can I feel safe in my own home? I've tried to respect your rules, to come alone when you asked. But the truth is simple. I cannot separate him from my life." The room fell silent. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, each second louder than the last. Leo's hand brushed mine, his eyes steady, filled with empathy and trust. That look gave me strength. I was done with fear. All I felt now was determination. His wife stepped closer, lowering her voice like a threat. "Do you really think you have the right to stand against us? You don't even understand who this house belongs to." I met her eyes, my reply clear and unwavering. I understand perfectly. This is Dad's house. But my life, my heart belongs to me. Leo is part of me, and nothing you say will change that. The air was taut, stretched like a wire ready to snap. My pulse pounded, my cheeks flushed, but with every word I felt lighter. I wasn't just arguing, I was claiming my right to love, to choose. They kept pushing, throwing around words like duty, family, tradition, future responsibilities. But every attempt felt like a blade I refused to let cut me. I had spent too many years quiet, swallowing my truth. Not anymore. Memories rose in me. Leo holding my hand after Mum passed away, standing beside me through nights when grief threatened to consume me, whispering encouragement when I doubted myself. Those memories reminded me why I couldn't back down. Leo wasn't just love. He was home. He was family in the truest sense. Finally, my voice rang out, firm and final. Enough. I won't argue anymore. But you need to understand there is no compromise here. If you want peace, then leave. Right now. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, reluctantly, Dad's wife turned and walked out, muttering under her breath, her disdain sharp in the air. Dad followed, his silence like a shadow. When the door closed, the house was quiet again. Leo came to me, resting his hand gently on my shoulder. "You did the right thing," he whispered. "I'm here. We'll get through this together." Exhaustion settled over me, but it wasn't defeat, it was relief. I had spoken my truth. The boundaries were clear now. Love cannot be judged, and my right to choose will never be taken from me. Later, we sat by the window, sipping warm tea. The rain had stopped, and the street outside gleamed under the glow of streetlights. The reflection shimmered across the wet pavement, calm and beautiful after the storm. I leaned into Leo, realizing something important. Family isn't defined by titles or obligations, it's where love and respect live. Some bonds heal you, others test you, forcing you to uncover your strength. And tonight, I had found mine. No matter what anyone said, I would not give up the person I love. And that truth, I knew, mattered more than anything else. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains, casting warm streaks across the hardwood floor. I woke up feeling both relieved and tense. Last night's confrontation with my dad and his new wife had unleashed a storm of emotions I'd been holding back. Anger, disappointment, determination, and above all, love for Leo. I reminded myself that this was the first time I truly understood that love wasn't just a feeling, it was a choice, and sometimes it was a battle. Leo was sitting at the kitchen table, holding his coffee, giving me that gentle, reassuring smile. "Did you sleep okay?" he asked softly, his voice carrying warmth. I smiled back, tired but filled with affection. He knew I was still thinking about my dad, and in his eyes, I saw the unspoken message. "I'm here. It's going to be okay." We spent the morning talking, sipping coffee, and laughing at little things. But the tension from last night lingered. I kept thinking about my dad, the way he avoided looking at Leo, the half-joking, half-serious remarks from his wife. I realized that even though Leo and I shared a strong bond, my dad's lack of acceptance would remain an ongoing challenge. I sat down with my journal and began writing everything out. Pouring my thoughts onto paper helped me not only release emotions, but also organize them clearly: anger, disappointment, anxiety, and even joy from having Leo by my side. In my journal, I wrote, "I need to set clear boundaries, not just with Dad, but with his new wife. This isn't about resentment. It's about protecting my happiness and the security of my relationship." In the afternoon, we decided to take a walk in the park nearby. Leo held my hand, sunlight catching his hair, and my heart felt warm. "Are you sure we did the right thing?" he asked, a hint of worry in his voice. I squeezed his hand and said, "You know what? Right or wrong doesn't matter. What matters is that we're honest with each other and we know what we want. If we don't stand up for ourselves, who will?" We sat on a wooden bench, watching children run and play across the grassy field, their laughter echoing through the quiet afternoon. In that moment, I realized that in a life full of challenges, love and connection were the most important things. Not everyone would understand or accept it, but at least we understood and respected each other. In the days that followed, my dad kept more distance than usual. He wasn't angry or harsh, but his silence served as a reminder that he still hadn't fully accepted Leo. I accepted it. I learned not to expect immediate change, and instead focused on what I could control: love, respect, and personal boundaries. Leo and I began planning for moving in together full-time. We discussed every detail, sharing chores, budgeting, daily schedules, and how to handle potential conflicts from family. Every conversation, every checklist we made, strengthened our understanding of each other and taught us how to face challenges together. Preparing for this life wasn't just practical, it was a way to solidify trust and deepen our love. One evening, sitting together on the sofa under the warm glow of the lamp, I reminded myself, life doesn't always go the way you want. Family may be imperfect, but I have the right to love and protect my relationship. Leo isn't just my boyfriend. He's my partner, my support, my teammate in facing every challenge in the following days. I practiced listening to myself and reinforcing my internal boundaries. I realized that setting boundaries wasn't about being rigid or hostile, it was about protecting peace and happiness. I started planning small steps, family dinners, social gatherings, and some moments that were just Leo and me. Each time, I reminded myself that my right to love and live authentically deserved to be defended. One weekend afternoon, Leo went out for some errands, and I received a text from my dad, a short apology, yet full of meaning. He wrote that he needed time to understand everything and would try not to make things difficult at future gatherings. A warm sense of hope filled me. I knew there would still be challenges ahead, but this time, I felt that boundaries and love would guide us through. That evening, Leo and I sat together, looking out the window as light rain fell on the neighboring rooftops. Streetlights reflected in the wet pavement, creating a quiet, serene scene after the storm. I thought about everything we had been through, the conflict, the tension, the anger, but also the determination and love. I reminded myself, sometimes you have to fight for the people you love and for the right to live truthfully. When you have a true partner by your side, even the toughest challenges feel manageable. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be more challenges from family and people who might never understand or accept us. But I had grown. I knew my boundaries and how to stand up for love. Leo squeezed my hand, his eyes full of trust and reassurance. I smiled, finally feeling a sense of peace I hadn't felt in days. We would move forward together, no matter the obstacles. That day, the sky was a clear blue, but a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, as if reminding me that everything was moving, changing. I woke up, feeling both excited and nervous. My dad was coming to visit Leo and me after weeks of keeping his distance. This was our last chance to find understanding before we moved out to live independently full-time. Leo was in the kitchen making breakfast, the smell of toasted bread and coffee filling the air. He smiled when he saw me enter. "Today's going to be fine. We just need to stay calm," he said. I nodded, but my heart was racing. I knew my dad would bring not just expectations, but also some defensiveness from his new wife. When my dad stepped into the house, his eyes lingered on Leo. I could see hesitation, curiosity, and uncertainty in his gaze. Leo gave a gentle smile and shook my dad's hand politely. Dad nodded, giving a formal acknowledgement, but didn't speak immediately. The room fell silent, except for the ticking clock and the faint sound of water running from the faucet. I took a deep breath, stepped forward, and said, "Dad, today I want us to speak honestly. I don't want any more misunderstandings or tension. I just want you to understand Leo and why I love him." Dad stared at me in silence for a long moment. I saw the struggle in his eyes, the desire to accept his daughter, and the instinct to protect the values he believed in. I continued, my voice calm but firm. "Leo isn't just my boyfriend. He's been by my side during my hardest moments. If you see that, I believe you'll understand he's an important part of my life." Leo stood beside me, placing a hand gently on my shoulder. "Sir, I'm not here to replace anyone or cause trouble. I just want to be by her side, support her, and be a positive part of her life," he said sincerely, without defensiveness. Dad looked intently at Leo, his eyes weighing every word. My heart raced with fear and hope. This might be the decisive moment. The moment our family relationship could finally start to find balance and understanding. The silence stretched for a few seconds, just enough for me to remember my childhood with Leo, the times he walked me to school, the afternoons we spent under the tree after my mum passed, the comforting words he always offered. I realized that all those memories had woven an unbreakable bond between us. Finally, Dad sighed, his voice warmer than usual. "I still haven't completely accepted everything, but I see that Leo genuinely cares for you and loves you. I can't deny that anymore. You two are grown-ups, and I need to respect your choices." Relief flooded me. Tears streamed down my face, but I couldn't stop smiling. Leo gently squeezed my hand, and I knew this moment would become an important memory. Marking all of our growth and maturity, we shared breakfast together, laughing and talking, free from the heavy tension of the past weeks. I realized that the solution wasn't forcing anyone to accept anything, but rather being honest, patient, and giving each other a chance to understand. After breakfast, we walked around the yard. Dad began sharing old memories of my childhood, recounting moments when Leo was always there. I could see warmth in his eyes, mixed with slight regret for creating tension, but also pride in his daughter's growth and ability to stand up for love. Leo held my hand, and I felt peace spreading through me. The final challenge had passed, but the lesson remained clear. Love isn't just about feelings, it's about patience, honesty, and mutual respect. Later, sitting on a bench in the garden, Dad asked about our plans, how Leo and I intended to live together, our work and school schedules. I answered openly, hoping he would see that Leo wasn't just a boyfriend, but a responsible, loving, and supportive partner. Leo chimed in occasionally, sharing funny stories, keeping the atmosphere light. I saw Dad smile, genuinely, for the first time in weeks, free of defensiveness or rigidity. I could feel the shift, small but meaningful. At the end of the day, as Dad was leaving, he placed a hand on my shoulder. I know I need time to understand everything better, but I promise I'll try not to make things difficult for you two anymore. Give me a chance to make it right, he said. I smiled, feeling that small but real change. Not everything was perfect, but at least we had taken the first step toward understanding and acceptance. Leo and I held hands, knowing that love and unity would help us overcome any challenge, just from family, but from life itself. That evening, sitting by the window as rain fell softly outside, I reflected, life isn't always easy. Family isn't always agreeable. But if you are honest, patient, and protect what matters most, understanding will follow. Love, as Leo and I had experienced, is always worth fighting for and cherishing. Ultimately, I realized that the greatest challenge wasn't confronting Dad or his new wife. It was holding on to my own strength, learning patience, and protecting what matters most. I felt stronger, more mature, and certain that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would never lose Leo or the right to choose my own life. The day we moved into our new apartment, summer sunlight poured through the wide windows, illuminating every corner of the room. Leo and I stood amidst the empty space, surrounded by boxes freshly moved in. The smell of new wood, cardboard, and coffee from the cafe across the street mixed together, creating a sense that was both strange and comforting. Leo grinned, placing a hand on my shoulder. This is where we'll build everything, our first days, our future, and all the moments in between. I smiled back, feeling the warmth in his eyes, realizing that every challenge we'd faced, from family tensions to school pressures, had led us to this very moment. The first days of living together were a series of new experiences. We had to learn to share space, from organizing clothes in the closet, choosing spots in the kitchen for different items, to dividing chores. Every little disagreement, like who should do the dishes or clean the room, was approached with humor. Sometimes we'd laugh at how trivial our arguments were. Leo wanted every book neatly arranged on shelves, while I preferred them scattered alongside our little keepsakes. One morning, I woke up before Leo and opened the window to let in sunlight. Birds were singing, and the scent of jasmine from the balcony drifted in. I made coffee and sat at the table, flipping through my journal, jotting down thoughts about today, adapting, finding joy in small details, and the calm feeling of starting this new chapter with Leo by my side. Leo appeared, hair tousled, eyes still sleepy. "Hot coffee?" he asked, smiling. I handed him a mug, and we sat by the window, watching the city slowly wake. We talked about school, part-time work, and the small dreams we wanted to pursue together. Evenings were often spent cooking together. I loved chopping vegetables while Leo handled seasoning and main dishes. The sounds of sizzling pans, the aroma of garlic and pepper filling the kitchen, the occasional laughter and playful teasing, it all made the simplest moments feel special. Sometimes we'd spill flour or oil, and we'd just laugh it off, enjoying the imperfect but real joy of living together. Living together also brought small challenges. Once Leo came home exhausted after a long day, and I got annoyed because the room wasn't tidy. But after a few minutes, I watched him nap on the couch, worn out but happy because he was working toward our future. I sighed, holding his hand, realizing that patience and understanding mattered more than the little. annoyances, we also had to navigate family interactions in this new stage of life. On weekends, I would still visit my dad, now with more calm and confidence. Leo sometimes came along, and gradually, Dad started accepting his presence without tension. During these evenings, we'd share simple dinners, swap stories, and laugh together. I realized that time and sincerity could soften even complicated family dynamics. One afternoon, sitting together on the balcony with tea, I told Leo, sometimes the simplest life like this is what makes me happiest. He looked at me with love in his eyes. And you know what? No matter what challenges come, as long as I have you by my side, everything will be okay. I smiled, feeling my heartbeat sync with the slow, steady rhythm of our shared life. Living together wasn't just about happiness, it was about learning to face pressures, conflicts, and differences. We learned to express feelings, compromise when necessary, and laugh when unexpected mishaps happened. Water overflowing in the sink, phones dying mid-cooking, or dinner slightly burnt. Every experience brought us closer and strengthened our love. Daily routines from tidying the apartment, grocery shopping, cooking meals, to reading quietly together in the evening became precious moments, the building blocks of a full, shared life. I realized that love isn't just about romantic days. It's about patience, understanding, and cherishing small, everyday moments together. Over a few weeks, our little apartment began to feel alive. Framed photos on the walls, green plants on the balcony, and a few keepsakes that meant something to us. Each item carried our imprint, creating a space that was warm, personal, and uniquely ours. I looked at Leo and smiled, feeling happiness spread through me. We had started building a true home, grounded in love and understanding. Time passed, and life together with Leo gradually found its rhythm. Our small apartment was now full of mementos, with sunlight streaming through the balcony windows, creating a warm and energizing atmosphere. Everyday routines, cleaning together, cooking meals, or spending evenings reading or sipping tea, became the foundation of our love. One summer morning, as we were getting ready for classes, I received a text from Dad. Want to grab coffee this weekend? I have a few things I'd like to talk about. I looked at Leo, and he gave me a small nod of encouragement. Think of it as a chance to connect more with family, he said. That weekend, we met Dad at a small cafe, where sunlight filtered through the trees, casting dappled patterns on the wooden tables. The atmosphere was tense at first, but as conversation began, it gradually eased. Dad asked about our work, school, and future plans. Leo answered honestly and confidently, and I noticed Dad starting to see Leo as a responsible, mature, and trustworthy partner. After our coffee, Dad surprised us. I'd like to invite Leo to some upcoming family events. I still need time to get used to everything, but I see he's important to you. I felt a surge of joy, a sense of validation for all the efforts I had made to protect our love. Leo smiled, taking my hand, his eyes full of happiness. Important milestones in our shared life began to appear. We planned finances together, shopped for necessities, and made long-term plans for our apartment. Every decision from picking paint colors to choosing balcony plants became a shared memory, a step forward in building our future. Challenges also arose. One day Leo got an offer for a part-time job far from home just as I was starting a new semester. We had to discuss how to balance work, school, and our life together. The conversation was heated at times, Leo wanted to take the opportunity, while I worried about its impact on our relationship. But after hours of discussion, we reached a compromise, prioritizing mutual respect and understanding above all. One evening, Dad called to ask about our life together. I described our daily routines, the joy of cooking together, and sharing small moments. He laughed over the phone warmly. "Sounds like you two are really building a life together, and I'm proud of both of you." Those words made me realize that love and maturity are recognized by family when they see effort and responsibility. Small but meaningful moments kept appearing. Decorating the apartment for holidays, cooking dinner for Dad when he visited, or simply sitting together with tea, sharing everyday stories. Every detail and gesture made love and family feel close and alive. During this time, Leo and I also began making longer-term plans, from budgeting and saving for the future to discussing career goals and travel dreams. We learned to listen and share perspectives, adjust plans when needed, and maintain a team mentality in every decision. A particularly memorable moment came when Dad invited Leo to a relative's birthday party. For the first time, Leo was officially introduced as part of the family space. Though slightly awkward at first, I could see acceptance beginning to take root. I realized that patience, honesty, and sincerity are the keys to building lasting family bonds. Our life together wasn't just about joy, it was about learning maturity, patience, and shared responsibility. Every day, from small chores to big decisions like work or finances, it was an opportunity to understand each other better, strengthen our love, and prepare for the future. And then, one quiet afternoon, sitting on the balcony with tea and looking out over the bustling city below, I felt that we had passed our first real challenges. We had laid the foundation for a life filled with love, responsibility, and happiness. These milestones not only marked our growth, but also built family connections, understanding, and trust in lasting love. Autumn arrived, painting the sidewalks with golden leaves that Leo and I often paused to admire on our walks home. The crisp air made evenings feel warmer as we huddled together in our small apartment, cooking, chatting, or simply sitting side by side with cups of tea. But with the new season came family challenges, reminding me that love isn't just tested on ordinary days. It's often measured during big family events, where emotions and expectations run high. One morning, Dad called, his voice excited but slightly tense. "There's a big family gathering this weekend. I want both you and Leo to come." My heart skipped a beat. I looked at Leo, who gave me a reassuring smile. "We'll go together. Just be ourselves. Everything will be fine," he said. I nodded, knowing that Leo's presence this time was a major test for both our love and the family's acceptance of him. On the day of the event, our relative's house was glowing with warm golden lights, and the aroma of delicious food filled the air. I led Leo inside, a tension creeping up as dozens of eyes turned toward us. Some relatives smiled warmly, others kept a cautious distance. I held Leo's hand, silently transferring strength. "Just be yourselves. We've got this." The initial conversations were slightly awkward. Questions about Leo, his work, and school came with subtle scrutiny. But Leo responded calmly, honestly, and with humor. Gradually, everyone began to see him not just as my boyfriend, but as a polite, intelligent, and dependable young man. I noticed Dad glancing at us, giving a small, approving nod, a quiet signal that patience and sincerity always overcome doubt. Yet, the challenge wasn't over. One relative skillfully brought up Dad's new wife, making the atmosphere tense. Some comments hinted at comparisons, which made me uneasy. Leo gently squeezed my hand, smiling reassuringly. He responded with tact and grace, steering the conversation smoothly back to lighter topics. Laughter soon filled the room again. I realized that emotional control, mutual support, and social finesse are key to navigating tricky family dynamics. After dinner, as guests departed, Dad approached and placed a hand on my shoulder. He really impressed me today. I see that your love with Leo has the strength to face any challenge. A warm joy spread through me, a sense that all my efforts to protect our love were finally recognized. Leo looked at me, pride and happiness shining in his eyes. In the following days, our life continued its usual rhythm, but each family event now carried lessons. We started making long-term plans, saving money, planning trips, and discussing career goals. Every decision was grounded in respect and understanding, from the smallest to the biggest. I realized that growing up in love isn't just about emotions, it's about cooperation, shared responsibility, and facing challenges together. Another memorable milestone came when Dad invited us to celebrate his wedding anniversary with his new wife. For the first time, Leo attended a formal family event with Dad's spouse present. Initially, I felt anxious. What if he felt out of place or excluded? But Leo stayed calm, standing close to me. The event went smoothly. We observed, engaged in conversation, and I realized that maturity and poise in love give us confidence to handle complex situations. One quiet night, sitting on our balcony under a sky full of stars, I said to Leo, "I never realized love required so much patience and growing up." He held my hand and smiled, "And you never realized love could make us stronger, helping us understand each other better every day." I felt the solidity in his words, knowing that we weren't just in love, we were growing together, navigating every family challenge and building our shared life through milestones, family events, and challenges. We learned that lasting love is a combination of emotion, responsibility, and understanding. Every day, from small acts like cooking or cleaning to big decisions about the future, was an opportunity to love, respect, and support each other. As autumn faded, leaving the streets covered in brilliant yellow leaves, Leo and I sat together, sipping tea, watching the city lights shimmer below. I knew we had overcome our first real tests and had laid a solid foundation for a life full of love, responsibility, and happiness, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Winter was approaching, and the shorter days and dimmer light made our small apartment feel warmer than ever. But along with the cold came family pressures, forcing Leo and me to face new challenges. Decisions about our future and how our family perceived our relationship. One afternoon, Dad called, his voice serious and heavy. "I want to talk about Leo and some upcoming family events." My heart raced, knowing this conversation could get tense. Leo, sitting next to me, squeezed my hand and smiled. "We'll handle this. Just listen and speak your mind." The conversation began with restrictions and conditions. Dad said that not every event was appropriate for Leo to attend, that some moments are for family only. I felt frustrated and confused. Why the distinction now, when he used to welcome friends and relatives at family gatherings? Dad's new wife interjected, saying she was concerned about Leo being present, worried she might feel overshadowed if the events became too partner-focused. I didn't stay silent. I looked Dad straight in the eyes. Don't you see that Leo is important to me? He's my partner, someone I trust and love. Why should his presence be minimized just because she is your wife? Leo placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder, silently lending me strength. Dad was quiet for a moment, visibly uncomfortable, but didn't respond immediately. After a few tense minutes, I continued, if family members are always prioritized over the people we love, then I'll have to learn to make choices. I cannot give up on the person I love just to please everyone else. The tension in the room was almost palpable. Dad's wife frowned, Dad looked uneasy, and Leo held my hand tightly. I felt the unspoken support from him, the strength to stand firm amid emotional turmoil. Finally, Dad sighed and said, I understand. I'll try to adjust, but I still need time to get used to this. I nodded, knowing it was a small but significant step. We had voiced our thoughts, defended our love, and set clear boundaries about how family could influence our relationship. After the intense conversation, Leo and I sat together, sipping hot tea. I said, I'm so glad you're here. Without you, I wouldn't know how to stay calm and patient. He smiled, placing his hand over mine. We've faced many challenges together. What happened today only makes us stronger. I realized then that love isn't just about feelings. It's about commitment and responsibility to each other. In the following days, we started planning for the near future, preparing for upcoming family events, organizing school schedules, work, and even budgeting for living together full-time. Every decision was made after long discussions, with mutual respect and consideration. I understood that maturity in love shows in facing pressure, having honest conversations, and standing together in every major decision. A particularly meaningful moment came when Leo suggested we should create our own moments, not influenced by outside pressure. No matter what the family thinks, this is our life. I felt relieved and agreed. We began building routines and memories just for the two of us, from winter evening cooking sessions, walks in the park, to sharing small daily stories. Every moment strengthened our love and trust. Looking back, I realized that a lasting relationship relies not just on love, but also on the courage to protect it against family and social pressures, on patience, understanding, and open communication. These challenges taught us to stand firm, safeguard our values, and support each other through every circumstance. And as winter arrived, snow falling softly outside our window, Leo and I sat together, watching the flakes drift down, sipping warm tea, knowing we were ready for whatever lay ahead. Our love had not only been tested, it had grown stronger, more resilient, and full of hope for the future. Winter had finally loosened its grip, giving way to spring. The first rays of sunlight slipped through the thin curtains, spilling across the small apartment Leo and I called home. The air was crisp but no longer biting, and the chorus of birds outside the balcony sounded like a celebration. The scent of blooming flowers, tulips, hydrangeas, orchids drifted gently into the room, as if the whole world was reminding me, you've made it through the storm. I lingered in that moment, breathing deeply. For months, I had carried the heaviness of doubt, conflict, and the sharp edges of misunderstanding. But now, the warmth of spring wasn't just in the air, was inside me. Across the table, Leo stirred his coffee slowly. He looked at me with that calm, unwavering smile that always felt like home. Do you think we've finally made it here? He asked softly. I met his gaze and smiled. We've been through so much. This isn't the finish line, it's just the next step. His hands slid across the table, warm and steady against mine. As long as we're together, nothing can shake us. It wasn't grand, it wasn't dramatic. But in those simple words, I felt the weight of truth that morning. My phone buzzed with a message from Dad. I'd like to talk about next week and some upcoming plans. It was the kind of message that once would have made my stomach twist. But the tone felt different this time. No sharpness, no coldness, just a softness I hadn't seen in a long while. I glanced at Leo. He read the words, then squeezed my hand gently. Don't worry. We'll handle this naturally. Just be yourself. And for the first time in months, I believed him. We met Dad at a cafe not far from the apartment, the same cafe where, not long ago, conversations had been strained and silence had weighed heavier than words. The familiar smell of roasted beans lingered in the air, but the atmosphere this time was different. Dad started simply, asking about school, about work, about the challenges Leo and I had faced together. I told him about our small routines, cooking together, walking through the city streets late at night, sharing daily stories that made the ordinary extraordinary. Leo added a few words, his voice quiet but confident, and I noticed something shift in Dad's expression. It wasn't skepticism anymore. It was pride. Then, almost hesitantly, Dad said the words I had longed to hear. I know I've been too hard on you. I can see how much Leo means to you, and I've watched him grow into someone responsible, someone who truly looks after you. I want to try to accept him as part of the family, the way you've hoped. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. All the months of defending our love, all the sleepless nights wondering if we'd ever be understood, suddenly, they felt worth it. The weeks that followed were a quiet kind of joy. We began building a rhythm together, not just as a couple in love, but as partners in life. Our little apartment became more than walls and furniture, it became a reflection of us. We hung shelves, rearranged the living room, brought home fresh flowers for the table. On weekends, we planned meals and went grocery shopping, laughing in the aisles when we disagreed over brands of pasta or which fruit looked freshest. Our days found balance, study, work, and moments of rest carved deliberately into the schedule. At night, we cooked simple dinners, pasta, stir-fry, soups, and ate on the balcony while watching the city shift from daylight to glowing evening. Each small ritual, repeated again and again, felt like a promise that this love wasn't fleeting, and for the first time, Dad noticed. At a family gathering weeks later, Leo was no longer the outsider. Relatives greeted him with warm smiles, asked him questions, offered compliments that carried sincerity. I could see his shoulders relax, the quiet relief in his eyes. What had once been a battlefield was now a place of belonging. Daily life became something I treasured. We didn't need grand adventures. Our happiness lived in the details. Leo leaving notes on the counter for me before he left for class. The way I would surprise him with coffee after a long shift. Even cleaning the apartment together turned into something meaningful. Him sweeping the floor while I wiped down the counters. Both of us moving in sync to a playlist of old songs. One morning, I woke earlier than him. Sunlight poured through the window, landing on the kitchen table we'd tidied the night before. The scent of fresh flowers drifted from the balcony. As I brewed coffee, I felt his arms wrap around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. "Do you see this?" he whispered. "Everything is beautiful, just like our life together." I laughed, warmth spreading through me, and realized how far we had come. Evenings often found us back on the balcony, watching the skyline flicker with light. I would talk about my dreams, traveling, saving, building projects, and Leo would listen, nodding, sometimes squeezing my hand. "Everything will be okay," he'd say, "because we know how to respect and love each other. That's enough." And every time I believed him more deeply. Over time, our conversations grew bigger. We made lists of goals, academics, careers, personal projects, finances, and the future of our relationship. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was real. We split responsibilities, crafted budgets, mapped out plans for trips we wanted to take. Every step required compromise, patience, and care. And every time we worked through something, I felt our foundation grow stronger. One afternoon, walking through the park, we stopped at a small lake. Swans glided gracefully across the water. Leo turned to me, eyes steady. "You know," he said, "we've been through so much, but it's made us stronger. What we have, it's not just love. It's responsibility. It's commitment." I squeezed his hand, heart swelling. He was right. Spring deepened. Flowers bloomed along every street. Sunlight poured through windows, and our apartment felt alive with color and warmth. Dad's one stiff tone had softened. Conversations with family carried understanding rather than judgment. For the first time in so long, I felt balance between love, family, and myself in the golden glow of evening, sitting on our balcony with Leo's hand in mine. I realized something profound. Love was no longer just a feeling. It was a practice, a partnership, a choice made every day, every coffee brewed, every chore shared, every small act of kindness. It was all proof that our love had matured into something resilient, something real. No longer fragile, no longer hidden. It had become the anchor that steadied us through storms, and the light that made spring mornings so bright. And as I looked out over the city, with Leo beside me and the world unfolding ahead, I knew with certainty we were ready for whatever came next. A life together rooted in joy, in patience, in trust, and in a love that could withstand anything.